What's up, guys? It's me, Lumos Theromax, and here today we actually have something pretty different. I'm actually going to be reviewing an entire run of comic books with my boy Canman2014. Go ahead and say something if you want, Canman.
Hey, what's up, guys? Came in here down to chill about or talk about some Zed. Super excited for this.
Yeah, definitely, man. And as he said there, we're essentially going to have issues 1 through 6 of the entire Zed run. We both individually read them, and now we're gonna just sit back, talk about them, and honestly just see what's up, see what both of our individual thoughts are on it. We discussed a little bit beforehand, but nothing too in-depth, so this will be a pretty cool experience for everyone involved. And if you're looking to get into either the League of Legends story or the like League of Legends like scaling or anything like that, this is a pretty good place to start because we get a lot of interesting things. So with no further ado, let's get into the general origin, or the general recap of this entire story. So we essentially have the madman known as Jihn re-emerging from his prior capture at the hands of Master Kusho and his two students, Shen and Zed, who both worked together with him in order to kind of put him away. Since Master Kusho was allegedly killed by Zed, Zed now realizes he must team up with Shen in order to deal with the golden demon known as Jihn, because this guy is that big of a threat, before Jihn essentially reigns in the end of all of Ionia as everyone knows it, and of course that having to be his work with Jihn, and figure out who exactly released him, or Shen I guess, and figure out who exactly released Jihn in the first place.
I think it's also notable that Kusho is Shen's father.
Yeah. And
which is kind of why Shen hates Zed so much.
Yeah, so there's just like a lot of built-up animosity, and especially as this comic book kind of builds and moves out throughout the story, you kind of see that animosity being played, because Zed, the actions of allegedly killing Zed's father weighs really heavy on him because he had to lie to his best friend Shen, and that's something he was very uncomfortable with for, I mean, the entire show, or the entire series until its climactic end.
Oh yeah.
So I know one of the things you want to talk about was a really good character development between a lot of the characters. Which ones do you think were most notable?
Oh my god, honestly, probably just Zed's character. Like, I get, he's the main character, so obviously his is gonna be the best. But like, it's just so good. You get to see his upbringing, how he came to be, and just the changes that he makes in his life to get to the man that he is today. Like, if you play the game, the man that you know from the game, you get to see how he was made, how he was forged, like what trials he went through.
Yeah, Zed in the games, I always got this idea that he was just like this ruthless, wanton killer. And in this, you really find out that that is not necessarily the case, almost at all. There's a lot of righteousness behind a lot of the things that Zed had done, for sure.
Exactly. Like in the games, he just seems like your typical run-of-the-mill villain.
Assassin.
Yeah, he's just popped up out of nowhere just to ruin people's lives.
True. But I think the cool thing about Ionia in general, especially from this comic book, is there's just everything is gray for the most part. And the guys you would normally perceive as good, that being the Order of the Twilight Order, or the kinkou order,
yeah,
they're not, I would not necessarily call them the best of people. They're there to represent the balance between spirits and men, but whenever men shows up to kill other men, they're just kind of expected to stand on the side, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, it's a very rigid and strict rules that they follow, what they can and can't do to preserve quote-unquote peace.
True. And
well, I guess not even peace, just balance is what
balance, which is the most important thing to them. Balance between man and spirit, because there's like all sorts of spirits and stuff in Ionia that are always looking to just like fuck up everything and destroy everything whenever they do while out and get out of control. And obviously the Eye of Twilight, who is like the leader of the kinkou order, has to step in and stop this stuff. And Shen had to kind of take up that role as Master Kinkou, essentially, or Master Kusho essentially had died, or allegedly had died at the hands of Zed whenever he was trying to fight back against the Noxians. during his right around when he was a teen. I'm pretty sure he was a teen when all that was going on.
Oh yeah.
But the art for this is like absolutely amazing, man. I don't know who they had drawn this stuff, but like the first opening sequence you have is Zed rolling up on basically one of the most notable warriors in all of Ionia and having just this flat out like ninja battle with him, bro. It's awesome. It was like straight out of Naruto. If Naruto characters were like actually 10 times more badass than they are, bro. Zed just creates like 27 shadows and then stabs this guy from every direction and walks away with the bad guys walk away from explosions vibes, bro. It was 10 out of 10.
It also doesn't take 27 pages to get through the fight.
Yeah, true. Very true.
It was a pretty quick fight. Like, I mean, Zed didn't mess around with him. He said, "You're gonna die. Now die."
The only person I think we see Zed really hold back in the entire story, in all honesty, is Shen, because he doesn't want to kill him. He actually respects Shen so much, so he's just not gonna. Just the balance between those two characters and how one hates the other and the other actually admires the other is just such a weird duality between the two characters.
Oh yeah.
And how Shen was willing to put aside even that level of like even for the greater good, he was willing to put aside his best friend for what was right, or at least right in his opinion, but still know that deep down that Shen was a good man and he needed him, especially whenever it comes to capturing the Golden Demon. So you brought up specifically like Shen and Zed's knowledge of each other.
Oh, like Shen and Zed know each other better than anybody else. Like there's a panel where Zed is going to talk to Shen and he makes sure to position himself perfectly because he knows exactly how far Shen can dash.
Yeah. And
I think by the time they get down to it, he's like just the tip of a finger too far away for Shen to actually land a kill shot on him.
Yeah, in that little nook and cranny village. And Shen even notes there, he's like, "Bro, I knew you were here the second you stepped foot in this village." Like the powers of these characters are really on display inside this, but it's the intellect, and since they know each other so well, it's the intellect going into it, especially on Zed's side, that's just like really impressive.
Oh yeah.
And for a lot of people who haven't read this yet, I definitely would recommend it. Be sure to like and subscribe down low for sure if you haven't. And like, I think that Zed just allowing himself like next to Shen, and like they had grown up with each other, and that's covered throughout this entire story. So like the reason why they're so aware of each other's abilities is not just because they're like enemies who would come across one another. As I stated at the beginning, both of these guys used to work together because they both used to work within the kinkou order way back in the day, and they openly knew each other's abilities.
They're almost like basically just brothers.
Basically
like,
brothers, yeah.
Shen's dad took in Zed to raise and train at the same time. Like the kinkou order, you know, whenever you join it, you leave everything else behind. So like the kinkou became Zed's family, and it was like the only brother. Shen was like the only brother he ever really had.
He was like garbage. Like at the beginning of things, Zed was like literally like their street sweep. Like he's their janitor, and just through hard training over time, he eventually, training next to Shen, eventually became powerful enough to rival him. And arguably, depending on your own perspective, like your own perception of kind of these two characters, you may even be able to argue it became better than him. So it's a really unique duality between these two characters that I really enjoyed. The balance between them was amazing.
Oh, most definitely. Like, you know, during their sparring matches, Zed was the only one that could ever give Shen a run for his money when they were kids. Like other kids didn't even want to try to fight Shen, but Zed was just always like, "Yeah, give me another go at him."
To next gen, Shen just kept hitting that wall until he eventually could climb it, bro. The guy was a top tier. So when it comes to Master Kusho, this guy who had essentially led the kinkou order until Zed showed up and allegedly killed him. This dude has actually the weirdest storyline, I think, in the entire show, because he's such a focal point despite not being in the present day. for like 99% of the entire 6-issue run. And spoiler alert for everyone rolling along with this here, in case you haven't already gotten that this far, he actually never died to Shen. He's actually the dude in the end who releases the golden demon, Jihn, onto the lands to try and unite all of the different houses that exist in Ionia. And I know, like, I want to say it's like the beginning of every comic book, or maybe it was just the first one, you get like this awesome layout of all the kingdoms that exist throughout Ionia, all the houses that exist there. And he needs Jihn to unify them, not only against threats internally, but externally, because one of the major foundational things to Zed was the Noxian invasion, and he was trying to fight them off. But none of the houses could really agree on anything besides pacifism, which was one of the big negatives. So he was trying to like, push him in that direction. And Kusho being the villain of this series was like wild.
Well, I mean, and that's where, you know, things get real dicey, because, like, you know, Zed is seen as a villain, but the reason that he left and killed about half of the kinkou order was because he wanted to just all-out brawl with the Noxians to get them out of Ionia. But as the kinkou, they couldn't because of rules.
Yeah.
So Zed turned his back on those rules so he could do things his way, so he could finally get things done and help his, you know, his whole country.
What good are those rules if everyone who lives there dies or gives into the Noxian way of life? Which is very dramatically different than the way the Ionians look at things. Because the Ionians are all like this large monk-like group of people who all embrace spirituality and being one with nature, and the Noxians are like strength for Noxus.
Yeah,
you're a battering ram for the country. Everybody is.
Yeah, and it's not like, you know, Zed is just hearing tales of what's happening while he's hiding out in the kinkou order.
No, dying, like left and right.
Yeah, like he has seen just what the Noxians are capable of. Like his disciple Kayn was a Noxian soldier, a Noxian child soldier that got bested, and the other soldiers just left him for dead.
Left him to die. Yeah, it's that whole. Just the whole Noxian invasion was just done really well, and it's not even like a focal point for the most part within the story, which is actually really cool. I would be cool with an entire comic book series just watching that invasion, like just like seeing that from both perspectives. I think that would be really interesting and cool. But the cool thing about Kusho and him kind of having planned out this whole situation was this was a fan theory for years in the League community that was just ablaze in all sorts of forums and chats, man. Everybody talked about how this was like potentially the case, but there was never really enough evidence to like actually argue it. So it was cool to kind of see at the forefront of this comic them actually taking a fan theory and either making it canon, or that was the canon the entire time, and them like 100% confirming it. Like that was just too real to me.
Definitely very cool.
So what did you think about Jihn in this comic?
I thought Jihn was just such a well-written villain. I mean, and he thinks like 17 steps ahead. I mean, he does exactly what he needs to. He understands his own weaknesses and he plans around it. Like, there's a scene where he has somebody go set up lanterns at certain intervals. You know, I can't remember the colors, but like it's like a white lantern every 5 feet, a red lantern every 15 feet. Just so that way, you know, if no matter where he is, he can use the lanterns to gauge how far away something or someone is. Like, it's just outrageous. And I mean, he sets trap after trap to lure Zed and Shen to exactly where he wants them to be.
Or even Akali at certain times, man. The guy is just... This guy's like evil Batman, crazy evil Batman prep time with the stuff he does. And a lot of times he doesn't kill a lot of the main characters because he just wants to see them dance. Like, he's just a lunatic. He is crazy as hell, obsessed with the number 4. And it's really on display as he is the villain at the forefront of like 99% of this comic book run. And he's just running around whiling and having a blast doing it.
I also like how we get a little bit of like insight into how Jin's able to do what he does, and he's got like a patron that provides him with his gun and all the ammo that he needs. This special ammo that he has that whenever he shoots someone with it, just like completely contorts and changes the physical appearance of whoever it hits.
So like the cool thing was when the Golden Demon originally had come out, he would create artwork out of everyone he killed. Everyone he killed died in a unique way, and it would be this terrifying looking flower that would grow out of their bodies, because he has this weird magic that allows him to, whenever he kills somebody with an object, he can enchant the object to like cause that event to happen upon death. But the unique thing was, as you said, the patron in this instance, which should logically be Master Kusho, hooked him up with the rifle from Zahn or Piltover. I think it was Piltover specifically.
I believe so.
He could enchant the bullets. So it was basically the same thing as stabbing them with one of his enchanted weapons before. So he could do that shit from afar. And the first time Zed rolls up on that situation, like 3 or 4 members of his little group just get insta-killed by this situation. And it's so terrifying. Like, what happens to them is beautiful, but it's so terrifying at the same time, because it's weird. It's such a weird and unique power for him to be messing with, in all honesty.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Zed sees it multiple times, and like every time Zed sees it, it's
more horrifying than the last.
Yeah, like anytime he sees it in the present day, he has flashbacks to whenever he was a kid, like
PTSD.
Yeah, any new body he sees just sends him reeling through every other body he's ever seen shot like this.
Yeah, it's just wild, man. I'm telling you, like it was really. I always thought within the context of the gameplay, he has these little traps on the ground that almost seem mechanical, and that doesn't do it justice to the way it's described inside that comic book. Because the way it's described in that comic book is it's almost like an organic thing that was natural. Like you said, he's creating artwork by killing people, and it's just such a twisted outlook on things.
Oh yeah, and I mean, his obsession with the number 4 isn't really addressed too much in this. But I mean, I think it's still just a very unique part of, really not being able to understand what's going on in his head, why he feels the need to stick with the number 4, why he feels the need to like contort bodies in the way that he does. Like, you get some some insight into who Jin is as a person, but like you can't understand why he does anything that he does.
No normal human could, that's for sure. The guy is 100% certified loan.
Well, I mean, like you said in the comic at the beginning, they literally just thought that it was a demon. Ionia is filled with spirits and demons and all that stuff. And they thought that's just what they was, and then come to find out,
it's just a guy.
It's just a guy.
Just a dude. And like, I mean, we even see Shen. I think he literally calls it a corrupted spirit. He'd banish a corrupted spirit. The guys who were hunting him are like no joke. The Eye of Twilight's the strongest member out of anyone in the Kinkou order. But on top of that, you have like arguably the greatest assassin who's ever lived, being Zed, who can just like roll up on some of the greatest warriors in all of Ionia and like within a matter of a minute just kill them brutally. Like Shen can literally like move through dimensions, can teleport freely. Like, he's got so many hacks and like so many different things going on for him, but that still kept Jin away from him just due to his excruciatingly crazy like prep time. Like it's wild the stuff he can accomplish, dude. It's wild what Jin could do in general, but it was on show in the spotlight of the entire comic book, was just how ridiculously beyond a normal human this guy was with his prep time.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and he knows his pursuers as well. Like he knows what Shen will and won't do. I mean, there's like at least 3 times where they captured Jin, and he's dead to rights if Shen didn't stop Zed. Or I guess at the very first time they catch him, it's Master Kusho that stops them.
Yeah.
But I mean, he knows that the Eye of Twilight can't kill him because he's not disturbing the balance between the spirit world. He's just murdering people.
Yeah, That's not their job as far as the Eye of Twilight is concerned. As dumb
Yep.
as it sounds, it's such a weird order to adhere by, but I mean, it is what it is.
I
But
mean, to me, it's kind of, like the Avatar. It's not his job to kill people. It's his job to preserve the balance between the two places. I mean,
true. But like even within the context of the Avatar, I felt like there were a variety of avatars who like had a set goal. Like even when humanity started whiling, they would step in. Like,
right, like the Avatar had an overall deal of keeping peace within the world.
It's
but
more so, it's more so limited to like the connection between the spirits and humanity versus like, this guy is just the protector of everything. And that
Right.
idea, I think, is actually cooler, in my opinion, the way it's executed here, because it gives such an interesting like story to a lot of the main triumvirate of characters from the kinkou order that we're heavily aware of. Speaking of which, there's some other tertiary characters who aren't as much in the front lines on this, but were still definitely interesting to kind of mess with a little bit. We had akali and kayn kind of walking around, and for those who don't play League, they're also notable champions that exist within the universe, but they're still at their younger points at this point in time, which is definitely, it's weird to see like in the actual League game them in their primes and then go to a moment in time where they're not, because Shen and Zed, unless we were in flashbacks, are definitely in their prime. they're definitely running around with the best of what they have, or at least to my knowledge, definitely. But what do you think of akali and kayn?
Honestly, I think Akali was kind of she wasn't too great in this comic. She slips up a lot. She falls into traps. She really just doesn't do a whole lot. But I mean, Kayn, he gets his hands dirty. I mean, towards the end, he's got a really nice moment where he like shows just how strong he is. And like for you guys that play the game, this is pre-darkened Kayn. I mean, he does some wild stuff in this.
Yeah, he rolls around, he fights, I think, a bunch of Master Kusho's students. He basically tells Master Kusho off. He's like, bro, you're not the fucking leader, bro. I tell you who the leader is.
Yeah, so at the end, like, Master Kusho and Zed have their little showdown, and it's set up as though Kayn betrayed Zed. So Kusho's like, there's an entire army of my disciples outside just ready to murder you. Kayn, go tell them that we're ready, and like all Kayn does is go outside and kills them all himself because he never had any plans on abandoning Zed or turning him.
Like, no, that guy's the G, okay?
Because I mean, Kayn's not an idiot. I think he knew from the start who was gonna win out.
Who was top dog in that situation?
Oh yeah, and I mean,
and it's curious because we see a lot of development with Kayn because he actually takes over the group that Zed was leading up into that moment, essentially the rebels against Noxus. And that was actually really cool too, to see him kind of step into a leadership role, which is something I would not have guessed.
Right? I mean, especially like, because like there are certain scenes before it really shows how much of a leader he is, where he's got just really juvenile behavior, Yeah. He goes straight to violence on anything. He makes snarky remarks here and there. He sits there and messes with Akali's head just because he can. But I mean, whenever push comes to shove, he steps up and he does what he needs to do.
Yeah, big fan of Kayn in this one. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more of him in the future. And I know we just got the Void release, or the Darken release with Legends of Runeterra. I'm going to go through and mess with a lot of the cards in there to see what additional context we can get and see if I can figure out more about the other people that actually were in that group with him down the way. That'll be kind of interesting to do.
Yeah, I was wanting to kind of, in the first issue, on the cover, they've got, Zed, Kayn, Shen, Kali, Zed, and then just someone else from Zed's little group. And the guy really doesn't do much. I mean, there's a scene where he's got, like, shadow arms coming out of his shoulders just because he wants to fight someone.
Yeah,
but I mean, other than that, he just gets a little drunk and.
I can't remember if that guy got shot by Jihn or not. He might have been one of the victims by Jihn.
I think literally everyone but Kayn dies from Zed's group.
The ones that went with them there, but obviously we see them like later on. Where like, because like Zed relinquishes him as leader to that group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What is he? The Shadow Order.
Yeah,
that's what he calls his group.
Which rightfully so, given he's got shadow powers, and he stole the shadow box from good old Master Shikusho and killed him at max power with it, bro. He goes full on Sith Lord at the end of that series and says that I don't give a fuck, bro, and just one shots him.
I mean, he basically pulls a Bane from, The Dark Knight Rises, tells Master Shikusho, you've dabbled with shadows, sure.
But I was born for them.
Exactly.
Literally, bro, literally.
But I mean, that's the case, because like he stole just a taste of the Tears of Shadows. He didn't take very much at all, but he spent so much time using it and perfecting, his techniques with it, that even though Master Kusho just straight up chugs the rest of it and turns into like a literal shadow, I don't even know, man.
Shadow being, yeah.
Yeah, like Zed still bodies him easily, like doesn't even break a sweat.
Yeah, he's like, cute, dude. You think you're the first guy I fought? Like, come at me.
Right? Like, it's like you said earlier, like the only guy that ever puts up a fight for Zed is Shen. And that's
he doesn't
seemingly because, Zed's holding back against it.
And there's literally a scene where he just lets Shen beat the living shit out of him and take him in because he just doesn't want to fight him. He feels so bad about lying to him and doing what he did to him and actually having had killed his father, especially at the end, even so. But I tell you what, we're gonna wrap this bad boy. What final thoughts you got for the Zed comic of League of Legends, issues 1 through 6?
Final thoughts, man. It's such a good run. I mean, the character development, the story, how everything ties in together, the plot twists. I mean, it's just such a well-written story.
Yeah,
I definitely recommend it to anybody who wants to start getting into League of Legends.
True. I think the cool thing about League lore is that everything is intertwined really well, and this story gets you heavily involved in 3 really important champions. Arguably some of the most notable characters from all of Ionia outside of Yasuo, which he's his own thing, but it really shines light on the daily life of stuff in Ionia and how things work there, which is something you'd never get inside the games, is like how things work, or at least until we get the MMO. So definitely something I really enjoyed. Well, I tell you what, I'll let you go ahead and plug yourself, bro, for the outro.
Oh yeah, man. Anybody who wants to watch some nice Mordekaiser gameplay, I think I do have a gameplay of Kayn in there as well. You head on over to my YouTube channel, Canman2014.
Yeah, definitely check it
I'm
out.
not the best player out there, but I do what I can.
Hey, that's all you can ask for in League, man. It's just do your best and hope your team doesn't feed themselves into oblivion. And I'll make sure to have your link in the description down below for anybody who wants to check it out in case you really enjoyed Canman's discussion. And as always, it's been great. Obviously, don't forget to like and subscribe to both myself and Canman2014 over here. And hope you enjoyed the conversation, guys. If you want to see more of this podcast-like style, be sure to let me know down low, like the video, and that's the only way I'm really going to be able to tell if people enjoy these more long discussion form like pieces of content. But as always, guys, until next time, later lanterns.
Peace.